We'll start off today here with some blue and white, and we'll just paint in a basic sky. I've already coated the canvas with a little clear gel and white on the top, and actually a little clear gel and white here on the bottom as well. That's because I'm going to do water here. I don't always do clear gel and white in my water. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I'm going to do it today, just for fun. We're going to do a lot of reflections and whatnot. I just think it'd be nice to have the capability to blend, but that is, of course, just me. You can do anything that you need to do to get the painting going for you. Speaking of which, let's take a minute and look at the version of the painting that you guys did, my last one. We definitely share using the hashtag on the screen. Also, I believe there's a special Facebook page that you can share your versions of this painting on. And then if you do it in time, I will grab them and put them in the next video. Oh yeah, look at that. That is very decent. Just a simple sky, very simple sky. I'm planning to have some purple trees in the background, kind of trees that are misted out. So we kind of have that purple cast to them. I think it'll be very pretty, kind of artistic. Maybe you wouldn't see a purple tree, but it'll be pretty in the painting itself. So we'll just plan on doing that. For now, just a nice light sky is all that is required. Now look, I'm going to mix up real quick, kind of a purple color, and I'm going to place that in right here and just kind of create just a suggestion of background trees. I'm not going to worry about it because there's going to be so much on top of this, but just some sort of a suggestion of something, some vertical strokes that seems so abstract, but it's okay. It's an okay start. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yes. And hey, tell you what, wouldn't be good to have it there if it wasn't also reflected in the water. Oh, that's going to be so pretty. There you go. Well, now I'm going to place in very quickly some rather arbitrary strokes. I'm going to come back and then I'm going to create a little more texture, but I'll show you how to wipe this off with a shop towel. It's going to be a nice effect. So we'll just have to sort of stick with me for now. Well, this next step really doesn't involve painting at all, does it? It just involves removing the paint. But this is actually more important than the painting phase of the trees, at least in this painting, because what I'm doing is I'm removing that oil. Not really removing the pigment, I'm removing the oil and I'm absorbing it here into my shop towel. You could use just a rag or something like that if you want to. Don't use a paper towel. You've heard me say that before, I'm sure. Don't use a paper towel. But anyway, my point is I've got to remove this oil because if you go to try to manipulate this and add to it, add branches and leaves, you're going to just come up with a big muddy mess. So shop towels. These are great. You get these kind of like in the automotive section. Except for like, working on cars, you get greasy. You need a heavy paper towel, which is really what it is, a heavy paper towel. Like I said, just a rag is fine. But the reason you don't use a paper towel is it'll shed very quickly. It just becomes lint in your painting. Now, as far as I'm concerned, a brush hair does not bother me in a painting, but paper towel lint is just terrible. So avoid that. So now I'm going to get just a darker green color. Pretty much mix all my darks together. Every time you reload, it'd be good to change that color up. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to kind of place it around somewhat randomly. You see, I went ahead and painted a basic sketch here. It should actually finish the sketch. There's going to be some land on this side, something like that. Maybe even some amount of land right here. Yeah, there we go. Oh, sometimes I paint and I can't talk. You know how that is. But there we go. It looks good. Hey, you know what? You are not limited to green. You could throw some purple in there if you want to. I want to. Let's get some purple. Right here. Mix up a quick purple and toss that in. Why not? It's not going to hurt anything. I hope. It'll be just fine. It'll be just fine. Purple. Beautiful. You can get away with purple sometimes. Purple and yellow complementing colors. Ooh, we're getting fancy today. There we go. Get a little bit of that in here as well. I'm going to repeat that very same process with this shop towel, creating just some amount of blurry texture. You could do this, honestly. At this point, you could probably do this with a 1 or 2 inch brush, but I'm just using the shop towel to keep it consistent. It's completely up to you. The 1 and 2 inch brush may be a better choice, depending on how comfortable you are. Some people may not be comfortable taking a big shop towel and just mushing your painting and sort of hoping that things turn out right. But they usually do. They usually do. You know where things go wrong? I'll tell you where things go wrong. They go wrong when you start trying to be too tight and too detail oriented too quickly. That's when things go wrong. And they go wrong in the direction of mud. You end up mixing mud. So we don't want to do that. Now I've got the 2-inch brush, really the same one I was using here for the background. And I'm going to create very quickly just some amount of a background green here just for our the farthest area there, if that makes sense. I kind of want that misty to create a little depth. You see, there's not a mountain, that's 100 miles away. You could probably throw a rock across this whole painting. And so in order to create depth, you kind of have to work with it a little. You kind of have to add extra depth by blurring things that maybe wouldn't be blurred if you were standing right there in the scene. It just creates more depth. This is art. We can do what we want. And this is definitely what we want. That's already prettier. Look at that big difference. Absolutely big difference. That's probably okay. We'll put some highlight on that. But then as we come forward, that is not going to be saturated enough. We're going to need to saturate our color. So get some of that darker green and start placing this in. Don't worry about it too much. Just stick it in. Just stick it in. As you can tell, we are not super worried about this today. We're just sort of letting it fall out of the brush. And it sounds like I'm out of control, but it's not. It's not out of control. It's just loose. Actually, a little more shadowy down in here, more shadowy. The reason I want it more shadowy here is because it'll help to lead the eye into the middle of the painting. That'll help just by simply darkening the corners. You use your colors, you use your contrast to make the viewer's eye go where you want it to go. You're in control here. So now I'm going to load up my brush with some of my tree colors. You may not need to load up your brush. It just depends on how much paint you put on the canvas and how far you went down into your water. For me today, I'm going to go ahead and just load some up. And I'm going to begin working on my beautiful reflections. Of course, well, as you know from the thumbnail, nothing is a surprise to you, I know. But it's a surprise to me. But as you've already seen, most of this water is reflection. I think that's pretty. I definitely like that idea. But some of it'll still be the background. It's a good balance, I would say. And a little more yellow, because you see the highlights also need to be reflected. We'll do that as well. Don't forget about those highlights. It's pretty. Look at that. I like that. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's awfully rough. Well, you can take a blender brush or just a 1-inch. I'm just going to use a 1-inch brush. It'll be fine. And give it just a quick blend. You can either blend it vertically or horizontally, completely up to you. I'm really not going to make a big deal about this. It's going to be very quick. See, I just got my 2-inch brush. I'm just creating here, as you can see, a little bit of softness in the grass. I'm just touching it, kind of pulling it. 2-inch brush works pretty good for a grassy field as well as the fan brush, whatever you want to use. Just filling it in, kind of getting. Just using the paint there. I did not add anything. Just using the paint that's there and kind of just creating, there we go, our grassy field. Yeah, that works. I think I said that already, but that is okay. That is okay. Hey, look at that. I'm pleased with that. That looks good. That looks just fine. We can always add to this. This is just a base. This is just a base. That's all it is. Well, now I'm going to create a little bit of action up here with these trees. All right. Over here, let me grab a filbert brush. Look how easily you can kind of just work some of these back into the background. I'm going to soften this background just a little because I want to show you something fairly interesting. Let's soften all of that, soften it just by touching. Oh, don't you love oil paint? I like oil paint. It's so easy to work with it as long as you're not fighting mud. All right, leave that to the side there because what I want to do is grab that same color, maybe just darken it a little. Just a purple, by the way. That's all I was using, just a purple. And what I'd like to do is create a little bit of a fence. It's not going to be very large, but just a little fence here that I think would be interesting and add something to the overall scene. And then it's going to go back. Just like that. That's kind of cool. Is it perfect? No, it's just sort of there. It's just there. It doesn't really matter. Just put a quickie branch or two, or branch. I paint a lot of trees. Put just a board running across some of these. Very rough. Again, not going to really be noticed. That's probably it, Well, now we're going to place in a couple of more foreground trees. It's a lot of trees in this painting. think it's so pretty. Oh, look at that. We'll sort of stop it right there where we can use that shadow. That works. It's really pretty. And maybe let's do another one right here. These are just, what is that? Maybe 1 or 2 shades darker than the ones behind it. Not terribly different, but just enough that it provides just a little bit of depth. There, that works. Starting to build up a lot of layers of paint. So you may have to glop it on a little bit. You can always wipe it off with a shop towel. The last thing you want to do, of course, is put too much paint on though. All right, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. How many more trees do we want? Well, maybe one right there. Kind of covered that. And you know what? There's going to be so many there. You don't have to worry about each tree. Just worry about the ones that you're gonna see. Those are the important trees. Now, I'm not going to put any here yet because we got that riverbank. I'll put these in last. I'll tell you what, let me lighten my color. This is kind of the way you have to do it. You just have to bounce around until you get a good level of detail going through the whole painting. Okay, right here. Kind of bring that one down there and stop it. Oh yeah, that looks good. Look at this. Look at this. I like that little clump there. You can start to do some of these branches with the liner brush. You can keep doing them here with the 3/4 flat. You can do them with 1/4 flat, whatever you want. Well, now I'm going to layer on some highlight as best I can. I did not wipe this tree off. And you can actually see that I really could use a quick wipe with the shop towel. But I think because I don't want that much highlight on it, I'll be okay. There, that looks pretty good. You don't have to have it solid. Actually, solid isn't good at all. So break that highlight up. And then, of course, up here, it's going to be so covered with tree leaves that I don't actually care. Now, rather than going and finishing one tree, it's sometimes faster and easier to go ahead and do one step to all the trees on one side of the painting, or on both sides, whatever you want to do. And then go back and do the next step to all the trees. It's just completely whatever works better for you. But for me, I'm going to try that. Not too much here on this one. Kind of there. Not too much on this one because this one's probably going to be covered anyways. That looks good. Now, you see how I did some broken highlights there? I actually would rather have broken highlights. So I'm going to take away some of that. Actually, just get my color back. Just kind of do that. I don't want it so solid. Now I'm going to just place in some dark color, some dark grass. See that? But you know what? It's not all just dark. There's quite a few different little colors mixed in. Makes a difference. There you go. See that? And this is just super basic. Just a place for our trees, for the foreground to sort of come to. A place for them to stop. But other than that, I'm not worried about this grass area. It needs to just be kind of nondescript. But I do like the idea of... I very much like the idea of kind of looking through some trees that are fairly close here in the foreground. That's what we're going to work on next. Well, now I'm going to highlight some more trees. I just quickly threw some large birch tree shapes in. This is the same old way we've been doing it all day long. Just a lot of trees today, a lot of trees. But anyway, just place on, actually sometimes the large birch trees can be easier than the small ones. Sometimes, because it's a little easier to get the details in. They're larger. You don't want to use something that has a lot of, like your purple, you want to mix it up on the red side, not the blue side. And I'm sure you know why. Otherwise you'll have moss growing on your trees, which I guess isn't the worst thing in the world, but you don't really see a lot of pictures of birch trees with moss growing on them, so we're not going to do that. So now we're going to create details using the detail brush. Oh, I just love that. We'll work on mostly just some textures, you know, these little birch bark textures. I won't go crazy. I will also probably put in a couple of darker limbs, a couple of darker birch tree limbs. That could be interesting. Something like, you know, this. Maybe I'll probably want to do that with the liner brush. It's going to stick a little better with the liner brush, but that works there. So we'll see. But anyway, just a lot of the same, you know. It's not a ton of variety in the actual painting process here. A lot of the same stuff, but it's good stuff. It's not like it's not really It's not too hard. It's not a big deal. Just a matter of kind of enjoying, relaxing, and doing it. Don't get into a hurry. And what's great is if you do something you don't care for, you too much of one color or something, too much dark or whatever. Watch this. Like, see those like 4 in a row you can take? Just any kind of, it's just the color there. Any kind of color, just push it back. See that? Oh, that works. That works. All right, we're getting close to the end. I'm gonna have to put some leaves on there. Anybody else like comma strokes? I think we're gonna need a couple of comma strokes. Well, now I'm gonna paint in some beautiful leaves here. You can see I've already thrown in all the dark. It took a few minutes, actually a few minutes longer than I would have thought, but it's a lot of comma strokes. So now I'm gonna just continue with my comma strokes. Hey, let me give you some advice for this. Grab yourself a cup of coffee and just plan to be here for a minute. It's gonna be okay, It's something that you don't have to do all in one sitting. You can walk away and come back. Just don't let the painting dry, You can even go overnight. Usually the painting's okay. And because this is sometimes kind of tedious, but it's worth it. Could you come up here with a 2 or 1 inch brush and tap this on? Yes, but those leaves would look further away. The way that you get the leaves to look larger and closer is to use the comma stroke and to more or less paint each leaf. You're clearly not trying to paint each leaf individually, but you are more or less painting these leaves in semi-individually. They look bigger, don't they? They look bigger. Now, remember, you don't want to just highlight everything. That'll look awful. Instead, just think of the little shafts of light coming through potentially and just hitting spots, if that makes sense. So you leave a lot of dark in your tree. The dark areas are just as important, if not more important, than the light areas. And when you do paint the light areas, you make sure that it makes sense with the way the light is working in the painting. Also, it's okay to cast some shadows on your birch trees once the leaves are in. You're like, there should be a shadow. Do it. just get in there and do that. But anyway, that's the idea. Lots and lots and lots of leaves. Well, now I'm going to paint in some nice grassy details. This will finish up the painting, make it look complete. I've got a little thin down, just black and green on the liner brush. That's all it takes. See that? Now you could add in extra birch tree details if you like. You don't have to. You can certainly, this I would do. I would add some limbs. I would definitely add some limbs to make sure you got plenty of detail. The grass is nice. It kind of gets your hand moving. The liner brush takes a little practice, but once you get it, it's not hard at all. But it does take practice to get it, because until you get it, it's a little hard. It's okay, but it's okay. Don't let that discourage you from using it. You don't necessarily pick it up and go right away with it. And if you've done any painting at all with the liner brush, I'm sure you know what I mean. Like I said, don't be discouraged by that. It's okay. That's normal. And it just takes a little bit of practice. Once you get it, you'll never struggle again. Well, I was just getting ready to do the outro and I realized, I don't like these trees right here. See, it was 1, 2, 3, 4 perfectly spaced and lined up. I'm not even sure how that happened. Usually I'm pretty careful about that sort of thing, and it almost never happens to me. But, well, it certainly happened this time. So I am just taking it out. The last minute, I am making a fairly major change to the painting. This is the detail brush. This paint is thinned down as some of the liner brush paint. That's not ideal, but I'm not gonna make mud. I hope. I'll be careful with literally taking it out, just painting around, filling it in as if it wasn't there. You'll never notice. You'll never ever notice. And this should give you a lot of encouragement, because how many times have we got to the end of a painting and thought, it's too late to change? It's not too late to change. You can easily adjust anything that you like. And let me tell you what, if you choose not to fix it, that's okay too. And you just move on to the next painting, but sometimes it's worth it. It's up to you. You'll be able to feel it out. See, hey, is this something that I ought to worry about, or just do better, learn and do better the next time. This was something I did not want to just learn and do better next time. I know it's fixable, and I know it'll look better if I go ahead and just paint it out. Well, that's about it for this birch tree painting. It's actually been quite a while since I've done one. I really enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, and brush line. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. It helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.